Welcome, everybody, to the Jurassic Park Podcast. I am your host, Brad Jost, and today we're going to be discussing all of the juicy details, all those spoilers out there, every bit of information you want to know about Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Season 2 with an executive producer on the series, Scott Kreamer. I am very, very excited about this one because we got to talk about all the spoilers for Season 2. If you guys listened to our content around Season 1, we actually did a kind of lead-in interview with Scott and the other executive producer, Aaron Hammersley. But this time, Scott was kind enough to join us for every detail that we wanted to discuss. So we saved this conversation to be released until after everybody hopefully has seen it. I mean, if you have not seen this season, please do not listen. Do not listen yet. Wait, go back to your Netflix account, go watch the show, get through all 8 episodes, every single one of them, because we're talking about every detail. So everything that we could remember at the time. And I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I think there's some great tidbits in there. Some explanations as far as things that you guys definitely want to know. Of course, we don't know what's to come. So who knows? We'll have to keep our eyes open and hope and keep our fingers crossed that there's more content coming our way, because Season 2 was a lot of fun, right? I mean, those cliffhangers, come on, we need some answers. So all I know is that I'm very, very excited for the future of Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, and I'm excited for you all to learn a little bit more, at least for now, about Season 2. And of course, be sure to check out our website, JurassicParkPodcast.com. There's some great spoiler-based articles over there from Tom Fishenden. And speaking of Tom, he also has some great videos over on our YouTube channel. And finally, before we get into the conversation, we are collecting your thoughts, ideas, your theories, your feelings for Season 2 for an upcoming episode of the podcast. So please send us some voicemails over to our voicemail line, 732-825-7763. Or you can record a message on your phone. We all have that voice memo app. Just open that up and then email us a copy of that to JurassicParkPod@gmail.com. And we'll go ahead and play all of your thoughts on that upcoming episode. So stay tuned for that one. But without further ado, I present my conversation with Scott Kreamer, the executive producer on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Enjoy.
Oh yeah! Feel the beat that I made! Are you ready? Dave Special! Music.
So first off, I just want to first off say congratulations on Season 1 and all the accolades within and outside the Jurassic community. I feel like it was just a major hit, it felt like, at least from our perspective here, watching the community talk about it, watching people that, I'm familiar with that may be a Jurassic fan, but not like the hardcore fan that I know like a lot of people that listen to the podcast are. But it really like permeated a good amount of the culture, and I thought that was pretty awesome. So congrats on that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you never know. I mean, especially with something like this that means so much to so many people. I'm not going to lie. Right before release, me and Aaron Hammersley, the other EP, were saying like, okay, get off the internet because they're going to be lying in wait. And, and some of the early, before we released anything, some of the early conjecture was, oh, it's a kiddie show and this and that. And for it to be received like it's been received by the community and, just the general public at large has been, it's indescribable. It's so gratifying. We're just, like I said, we're just really grateful that people seem to do.
That's awesome. It's a franchise that hasn't had the chance to really dip its toes into other markets outside of like the films, really. There's been a few things here and there, but this is like the first big expansion. And I think this first season was everything that we all hoped for. It was awesome. It was a great way to introduce everything. I had so much fun with it. And I know, last time we had a conversation, we talked about like a lot of the details without spoilers and stuff like that. So I was hoping maybe I could ask you a little bit about season 1 before we get into the season that's coming out here. Or I guess it probably came out by the time you guys hear this. So
sure.
Mind talking season 1 a little bit?
Yeah, no, please.
All right, cool. So I'm going to start off with a pretty big concept that came about in the show. We learn about this whole spy storyline and the fact that a lot of, whether it's data and samples, stuff like that, are trying to get off of the island. So that's Manticore. So like, where can you talk about the concept for this company? Like, how did this initialize? Where did it come from?
It was one of those things that it came up pretty early. I remember I had the thought of Manticore one night, and just came in the next day. I think it was in early days. It was just me and Josie were writing at that point. We hadn't really put the team together, and just what do you think about Manticore? It's like, because there were times we were going to fold Biosyn in early, but they weren't sure because, Colin was still, I think back then, was still writing the script for Dominion. And so we just thought, well, who's our Biosyn? What can be something like that? And I don't want to get, too much into it.
Sure.
The idea of this, look, since Wu cracked the code, there's been multiple companies. This isn't just InGen and Biosyn. There's other places out there trying to get on the ground floor and trying to make a buck off all this. And, Manticore is one of those companies.
Yeah, I love this like deep history of other companies just trying to straight up steal from Jurassic. It's awesome. It happens all the time, and it just makes me wonder like how much is that happening, in sequences we're not seeing in storylines. But yeah, I love that whole thing. When the drone came down, I was like, oh my god, what is this? Who is this? What is the information? Of course, we see all that stuff on the computer, and it just led to us like, theorizing so many things because we see like a bunch of different dinosaurs on the screens or the whiteboard. We see like, E750, stuff like this, like all scattered around. And it just leads us like to piece these things together. Also the conversation about other guys. I'm just like, okay, what's going on here? Who are these other guys?
Yeah. I mean, look, then I guess what we were trying to do worked because you're thinking about it, you're wondering about it, and it's out there. It's not gonna, we didn't put it there by accident.
Yeah,
so,
I love that. I love that. So I want to go over to Toro for a second because that was such a fun dinosaur, and I've throughout our rewatches and stuff like that, just been really noticing how that dinosaur is just stumbling all over the place. It's not used to, walking on these slippery surfaces or stairs. I love this dinosaur. It's so much fun, and it's clumsy, but it's also like pretty intimidating all at the same time. And then at the end of the season, that thing just gets scorched, and I absolutely love that whole design. I thought that was pretty impressive. So like talk about that design. Like when you were coming up with this whole storyline, you scorched that thing. So what was in your mind there?
Yeah, we the idea of the kids straight up offing a dinosaur just doesn't feel like our kids or our show. So but you also had to believe that Toro wasn't going to, you got to buy that Toro's going to go, you know what, I'm going to live to fight another day at the end, and so that was, we really took pains into making that work. So that was part of it because, and from acting to design to the sound effects, that was really, I put it down in the script, but it was really up to all these people to go, all right, I'm going to buy that Toro is not going to just chow down on these 5 kids, that Toro is going to go somewhere and lick his wounds.
Yeah. I love that these dinosaurs are believable in that sense. Like they can just barely miss all these kids so many times, but like this works because of these situations that Toro is put into. So with Toro, I know there's been a lot of fan chatter and stuff online about this Carnotaurus potentially being the same one that's at the end of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom inside the Lockwood Manor. Did that ever come into your mind, or was that a planned thing, or no?
No, I mean, we definitely kicked around, but I mean, when we started writing season 1, I don't even think Fallen Kingdom had come out yet. So,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there was some talk about it, but by the time we get to the end of season 1, Toro's extra crispy. It kind of makes it hard to make it like, oh, it's the same dinosaur, without going to a burn unit or something like that.
Yeah, there's just something about the design of the one at the end of the film. It looks a bit different than the one in the middle of the film or thereabouts. So I know everybody's just like, all right, whether it's confirmed or not, I'm buying it. I'm in
Okay.
that idea. So
all right. Well, I can't confirm it, Brad, but if you want to buy it,
we're buying it anyway.
I support you completely.
Same thing kind of goes with and I know it's said otherwise in the first season, but like they're on the monorail and that explosion rocks the monorail, and later on they kind of say, oh, I guess that's what the explosion was when you see the other monorail. But like as soon as that happened, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, that's definitely a rocket launcher blowing up Charlie out in the forest in Jurassic World. I was like, that's definitely that. But then they say otherwise. I'm like, oh man, I still might believe it though.
Well, it's also one of those things. It's the kids trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, originally the intent was that it was the other monorail, but again, I'm not going to stop you. I want you to believe what makes you happy, and who's to say that's not what it is? Because it's about the same time frame, when they're out there in the dark. So, yeah.
And also on that whole sequence, Ben. Let's talk about Ben for a second, because that was pretty dark. To be honest, like Ben dangling from a monorail, falls, plummets, potentially to his death as we're watching that, and that's a brutal moment. So how do you balance that that darkness in a you kind of mentioned it before, but like a kid show or kiddie show or something? I don't think it is, but I'm just wondering how you make that balance.
It's hard. Originally, because the tricky part was when after Ben falls, now we got to get on with the rest of the episode. And how do you tonally shift from that? So originally, I think I can say, we were going to have Ben fall at the end of 7, at the end there. And then that we felt that, okay, that way between episodes, it might be a little easier to transition into, okay, now we got to get to the boats without feeling the kids are being cowards. But there's some rules where if you believe a character might be dead, that if they're not, then you have to answer that question in the same episode. So where we at? So then we moved. So that was tricky. It was super hard. But that's when we kind of had, okay, well, what if something had like Darius all of a sudden having that realization that, oh my God, the monorail's going the wrong way. So, and then the urgency has to kick in there. So, that was hard to get right. We tried it different ways in the script, different ways in the storyboards. I think it ends up working, but that was a really tricky moment to get through, because these kids do love Ben, but going back means that none of them are going to make it.
Yeah, you can tell they're kind of torn up, and especially like Kenji. He's in the back of like all those sequences after that moment, just like shell shocked, and I really love his shift of character between this first season, at the end of this season, and then even throughout the second season. He's a totally different guy, and I love that character so much. He's so emotional. He's such a supportive character, and I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, all of them, but Kenji especially. Just seeing how much being with this group, with this camp family. How it has been, mostly just a really positive thing in all the kids' lives.
Yeah. So moving into season 2, what was your goal for like coming out of season 1? Like, did you have a goal, in mind as you're beginning to work on season 2 and to create that story?
Well, because season 2, it's like Colin had spoken to, after season 1, we're sort of free to our own devices,
Yeah.
so, we're not married to the timeline of Jurassic World anymore. We got about 6 months till that opening sequence of Fallen Kingdom takes place.
Yes.
So we got, now it's up to us. So, all these episodes, yes, obviously the dinosaurs are very important, but at its core, we approach every episode from the characters. And what do we hope to see the characters' growth in this? What can we illuminate new about the characters? How they react and relate to one another? Because, season 2 takes place, a day or two maybe after season 1. So we're still trying to survive. So we definitely wanted to get more into the Swiss Family Robinson of it all. Like, we're stuck here till someone comes and rescues us. How can we make that happen? And what do we do? How do we survive in the meantime? Whether it's shelter or water or food. And also, these kids are still just getting to know each other and interacting. So, and also with like any season, you want to top the one that you did previously. So that was a goal.
Yeah, it's got to be hard because like you said, you had to tie a lot of stuff into Jurassic World, and that was certainly like one of the coolest moments, those touchstone moments throughout the first season. So being able to explore, that's got to be really fun, and I appreciate that. I loved being able to see, different like that what do you call it? The veterinary area or the adventure. I think it was like an adventure walk or something like that. Like, this is really cool, like to be able to explore these different places and Main Street, the tunnels. Like, there's so many cool different places to explore.
Yeah, I mean, to your original question, we also wanted to introduce some new dinosaurs. For me, as a T-Rex lover, I wanted more Rexy because we couldn't. We couldn't do it in season 1. It wouldn't have made sense within the timeline. So, and we wanted to see some areas that you haven't seen in the films or you haven't seen them on the show, and just let's discover more about Isla Nublar.
Yeah, I love the Rex in this season, and she looks beautiful, like, just and like new features and things like that, like the nesting and all that stuff. Really, really cool, like introductions. Actually, that kind of goes out to all the dinosaurs, and that seemed like a big part of this season was showing how the dinosaurs are changing and how a broken park kind of lends to them reclaiming this island. And I really liked seeing that. That was pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that whole opening sequence of the first episode, when it's just kind of sitting in like, okay, dinosaurs, this is now your island, right? This doesn't belong to the people or the commercialism or anything. This is their island now. So what does that look like?
Yeah, that has me like thinking and wondering about like the future, and you don't have to say anything about it, but just like I'm going in my mind, I'm like, all right, so Rexy builds a nest here in the park, and I'm like, man, what is she doing out in the wild in California, where they're broken free in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I'm like thinking that's a cool setup for the life of a dinosaur, that is now free completely.
Well, they're not, like we've said, I think we probably talked about before, they're not monsters. These are animals. And we've really treated each of them as not only just animals or obstacles, but they're characters. And so, you want to, as much as you can, just do them justice as much as we're doing justice to the campers.
Yeah, and there's a few people that are definitely not doing justice to the dinosaurs, and it's surprising, like I did not expect like a new group of people to show up here. I kind of just thought like, hey, we're gonna just follow these kids, or maybe we'll follow the threads of Manticore or something like that. But hey, we get some new people who you play them off of these like. They're kind of annoying, like with the whole like, all right, babe, hey, babe, and I'm like, oh gosh, who are these people? What is their intents? And then all of a sudden, like later on in one of the episodes, it gets really dark. Actually, it gets pretty, I guess you could say, grim. Where, like shooting Grim just like straight in the face, I guess. It was just like brutal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is dark, and that was pretty incredible.
We took some swings. We pulled back some places as well, but when you have characters like this, look, we don't take any of whether it's a kid show or not. We don't take any of the fatalities lightly, and whenever possible, it's important to us to make it like, okay, that person deserved to get eaten. Whether or not it's Eddie stealing the van in season 1, or even the park worker who gets eaten in 104, which I actually do the voice of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm the first one to get eaten by the Indominus.
That's awesome.
And even he was being kind of a jerk to the kids, which is kind of a stretch, but you know what I mean? Like, but with Mitch and Tiff, we really wanted, it's like any of the films. You want to feel it like they got what they deserved. Mm-hmm. And so it got dark. It got grim, but in the end, I hope everyone feels satisfied that, they had that coming to them.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That I think, was something that worked for me really well, was like, all right, so now Mitch is strung up, I think like in a tree, and Rexy's coming straight at him. You know what happens there. And that whole that ending sequence where they're rushing out to the boat, that was awesome. And there's that one little glimpse of the baryonyx just sprinting past. It's like a very quick shot as everybody else is going to the dock. I love that moment because you're like, all right, I know what's happening here. And, she makes a bad call by looking backwards and kind of crashes in. And that's why I'm assuming they jump on right there. But that was pretty awesome. Lovely fates, I think, for both of those characters.
I feel like they got what was coming to them.
Yeah.
So.
So for this season, well, actually, kind of spanning like the production just in general. When you're creating the series, are you looking at it like as a season by season thing, or is this like you're just like writing like a long narrative? Like, how do you break this up?
Well, it's actually both of those things. You do look at it as an arc for the season, but you also have to keep an eye on, okay, what's the overall story? That we're telling, and then hopefully you get enough, they give you enough runway to take off and land the airplane. So there's definitely a plan, in my head, I know I want the final shot of the show to be. And hopefully we get there. But it's twofold. You are thinking about it as a season long arc, where, Mitch and Tiff, the big game hunters, and now we start, okay, enough of waiting for rescue. Let's get ourselves out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that this season, it kind of surprised me, and I'm maybe on your end, obviously not as shocking, but like the fact that it was just like, what was it, like 4 months later, I was like, oh my gosh, season 2, here we go. I'm ready. That was pretty awesome. That turnaround time was amazing.
Yeah. Exciting for me too, because I just want people to see it. It did, and they don't ask me about these things. They inform me, we're going to put it out in January. It's like, great. I don't know if that has in part to do with Dominion getting pushed, but whatever the reason, I'm happy about it. I want people to see the show.
Yeah, that I did think about that as well, because I was like, well, if this is 4 months or so later, like what's next? What do we have? But then I was thinking about Dominion and how does that affect you? Because I know like you guys had Colin working like with you at times and stuff like that. Does the pushing of this and also like COVID restrictions or anything like that? Has it been tough on your workflow for any of these shows or seasons?
Surprisingly, and it's just a testament to our crew. We got, I guess end of season 1 when, we've all been working from home since March. Mm-hmm. And there was like a couple weeks of a learning curve. But really, we didn't end up really pushed a couple deadlines, but not by very much. So we were really able to adapt and keep moving. So overall, minor, the harder part is the effect that this has. Now we're not together. Now you don't want people to be feeling isolated and that's the human toll is much more my concern than whether or not we hit our deadlines. So everyone is it's been pretty impressive to see what this crew has done in the face of this.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you don't see any issues in quality and the just the industry in general. Like, it's pretty impressive just how much can be churned out from working from home and stuff like that. So that's awesome. I think I think this is going to change, even moving forward once we're past this nightmare, that this is going to, I think, change some things about how animation is done, because it can be done this way. And so what does that mean going forward? So I'll just have to see. Yeah, and the animation itself, again, just gorgeous. There's no difference between your seasons, right? It's all the same process and stuff like that. Because the dinosaurs look beautiful.
It is, but I think like anything else, you get used, whether it's Dan Godinez or our crew over at CG or any of the other animators, you just become more comfortable. You start to know the rigs better. You start, like the writers, we know the characters better, or the artists, okay, the characters move this way. This is how, it's just the familiarity, with anything, I think has led to just an upping of the game across the board. Getting more familiar. When you get more familiar with these characters and with these surroundings, it just then you can focus and go deeper.
Yeah, and the animation and just the style of those baryonyx in this season, it's incredible. When they were walking around that lab sequence, or which I love that tall grass moment really cracked me up when they're just oh, we gotta go hide in the tall grass, and then it's just poof right through.
Yeah. Well, you gotta put it that made me laugh too. And so you have to have those little moments, because otherwise the show can be pretty relentless if you don't have some moments of relaxation, whether it's at the resting tree or the baryonyx shooting through the tall grass. You need those lighter moments to release that tension before everything goes.
And one of those would happen to be is Dave's mixtape or whatever you call it. That is so funny to me.
Dave's demos was something we had just kicked around. I don't know. I think it just came out of us talking in the writer's room and just really made us laugh. And especially Bethany, who wrote that episode, The Watering Hole, which I love. So yeah, when she brought Dave's demos back in there, and we were all like, yes, absolutely. And then Glenn Powell had a ball, because we've probably have an hour of him just freestyling. We had an embarrassment of riches to cut it down to that.
Somehow that needs to find its way out onto the internet, because that's too funny.
Yeah, I don't know where it needs.
Sell it on iTunes or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of Glenn just freestyling and Dave's demos.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you had to find a way to kind of work those two into the show, because they sent off on the ferry at the end of season 1, and that was I think the only cameo, right, from season 2. So they were such pivotal characters in the first season. Did you like feel like you missed them in the second season at all?
Well, because you're writing it before the first one comes out. So yes and no, because I thought they came off great in season 1 and they were so much fun. But at the end of the day, this is a show about kids counting on each other to survive. So we knew, it's sort of like you have to tell the story that makes sense. Like we had that beautiful Camp Cretaceous set, and then we tore it down in the 4th episode. And it was like, oh man. Yeah. Normally in CG, you don't want to do that. You just want to, you want to reuse these beautiful sets, but it's like, this is what has to happen. I love Glenn and Jamila's performances, but for this story, we had to get them out of there. Otherwise, you're going to have these kids who are going to be looking to them. And so it's just the way it had to be, however painful it is.
I loved that thread in the first season where they realize that the lab is right around the corner. They run out there. They find Eddie and his birthday cake, which is so funny to me. I love that sequence. But like, it's that whole moment is actually really heartbreaking from the kids' perspective because they are so reliant on adults and that's just their way of life. And it like there's a moment I think Darius says like, "But you're an adult. You're supposed to know what to do." And that's heartbreaking because like now it's up to them to figure it out. Because look, they tried to rely on adults again, and that just didn't work out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And look at our world and look at the kids in our world today. And
it's all up to them. Yeah,
it is up to them. We've just in the same way that Wu and Masrani or whoever kind of made a hash of things on Nublar. It's up to the kids to kind of fix the troubles that the previous generation has wrought, and it's that was a hard lesson for the kids to have to learn right then and there.
Yeah. So with the show, you had mentioned it earlier on, like that. It kicks off kind of like maybe a day or two later. But there's there must be a big span of time. Do you have like a general like timeline as far as like, them building everything and like how long does this season take place like within?
There's definitely a time jump from the time that the kids like start sketching out the what the camp could look like and then the building of it. So in my mind, we don't have it completely hashed, but that's like probably 6 to 8 weeks. There's like that jump where the kids are now figuring out getting into the Swiss Family Robinson of it all. Originally we were going to do more of that stuff, and then we just sort of ran out of. We just kind of ran out of. We had too much story we wanted to get to. So that's probably like a 6 to 8 week jump right there in the building of it. So I'd say overall, probably a couple months.
Yeah, it has to be, fairly long because they built a really impressive place. And that one moment where, Yaz is basically giving up on everything. She doesn't know who she is without her speed and all that. And then she, just flips the script and she she realizes she has another trait that's really impressive. And I love that moment, her figuring out like, oh, I could design this, Swiss Family Robinson house. Like that's awesome. I really like that part of the show.
Oh, I'm glad because, we really, like I said, you want to give all the characters their time in the sun and to just dive deeper and just, and also as a lesson, you can't just define yourself by, what other people think of you or what you imagine this is all you can do. It's like kids have a whole wealth of stuff inside that they may not even know. So it's just, you gotta just keep fighting.
Yeah. This show it's like literally all about, not being who you're either seen to be or how people project you to be. like every character I think is that way, and it's really cool. Even Brooklyn with her 27 million followers, like the way that they think she is, and Kenji's like having a hard time giving up his like rich kid attitude, but he wants to so bad, and Ben's got his like mother overshadowing him and stuff like that. There's so many cool aspects like that, and I love that. It's got a lot of heart. A lot of heart.
Well, that's again, that's not by accident either, and we were that's definitely what we were going for.
So I do have another one here. This is about the toys. So I don't know if I think we talked about toys a little bit in our last conversation, but going into season 1, I think the toys were out just a little bit beforehand, and we actually happened to see like around that time stuff like the Ceratosaurus and the Baryonyx, like before season 1. So when season 1's coming up, we're like, oh, I can't wait to see how this Baryonyx plays into the show. And then season 1 comes, and we're like, oh, I guess it doesn't. So how is that hard? Is it like difficult for you guys, like when you see that stuff released or anything, or do you even care or notice it? Like,
I notice it. Stuff? But, at the end of the day, they just hired me to try to make the best show I can make. So again, this is not something they go, hey, what do you think about putting these toys out now? It's like, no, they're not. That's for somebody else. It is like, because then you build up this expectation. Oh, these trio of Baryonyxes. And then I'm like talking to you for season 1. It's like, well, who knows what we're gonna see? Luckily, I guess it built up even more anticipation, and now people can finally see Limbo.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting to the point where it seems like Mattel is kind of just putting, as far as it seems, like any kind of dinosaurs into the Camp Cretaceous like banner, and it's like now we're all like, oh my god, what is happening? Like, where are these things coming from? Yeah. So it's all confusing now. But now I think we're like taking a deep breath and realizing, all right, well, let's just take it like one day at a time.
Yeah, I can confirm that not every dinosaur out there in the Camp Cretaceous is going to appear in the show.
That's kind of what it seems like.
But we simply just can't do it.
Yeah, those Baryonyx were cool because we got, I think, Limbo in a Darius package, and then Grim got its own pack, and Chaos actually seems like the same one that you see in Fallen Kingdom. I know we kind of mentioned that with Toro too, but like that one actually like looks very, very similar, like in design as the one that's in the tunnels.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it, Brad?
And the fact that we got that toy years ago, back in 2018, it's a great, now you got them all together. They look good together. So it's fun. But yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It was nice again because there was so much like fanfare when those toys came out. And finally we can deliver on that promise.
Yeah, it's always exciting when we see new toys in general, and the Camp Cretaceous brand or just the standard brand. But like now we're getting the Snap Squad, those like tiny ones, and there's so many things out there. And hopefully they produce more humans. I would love to see that because like I love these characters and I want to see that in our lines eventually. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'd love that too because Paul McKell, he's got an action figure, and I really would love for the rest of the kids to be out there. I have nothing against any of that, but I would love because. As I'm always talking about how hard and amazing our crew works and our writers, but this cast, they're just great people, and they've done such an amazing job as far as, really embodying that heart that we are trying to get out there. So I would love them all to be able to have their own action figures. How cool would that be?
That would be awesome. I mean, Brooklyn kind of got that in this season in a way, which was another like comical moment and actually pretty fun, just like to know that, here's another reason why she's tied to the park, because she's got this, I guess, like a sponsorship or something like that. She's got these cardboard cutouts. That was super fun. That was awesome.
Yeah, she's sponsoring phone chargers, which I thought was pretty funny. So
Any way you can build out the stores on Main Street is good with me. So that's awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, we talked about the kids hiding out in Margaritaville, but then it just didn't work with our age demo. So we decided, okay, well, we won't do that.
Yeah, that's got to be tough because like that's the prime real estate. That's where it would be good to hang out, but T-Rex, took the entire street over, so it's kind of tough.
Makes it hard to go there.
So, kind of rounding it out here, I'm sure you can't say much about it at all, but E750, this, like I said, it's got to be tough to discuss. But can you give us any thoughts or inspiration on this project or whatever it is, like anything at all?
Huh. No, I don't think I'm gonna.
That's fair.
Brad and fans. No, but I mean, I will say, it's right there in episode 2 when Brooklyn sees it on Woo's on Woo's computer. So, it was something that Woo was working on or keeping tabs on.
That's something that I'm just like, I'm keeping my eyes peeled because that's a really cool thing and a really cool detail that whatever is happening there. And you guys obscure it so much to the point where like, it's like barely even there. And you're just like, as a viewer, I'm like, I have no idea. Like what is happening here? What is going on? And so, yeah, you pulled it off. You didn't like tip your hand or anything like that. It's pretty awesome. So
good to hear. Like I said, just putting a little tiny detail like in a throwaway thing of Brooklyn before she gets caught in Woo's office. And that's, I'm glad it intrigued you.
And finally, what was your favorite part of this season? Development-wise or story-wise, do you have something that stands out for you?
Well, it's funny, an episode that we didn't talk about, the Ben and Bumpy survival.
Yeah, I forgot about that
episode. I just love. And Lindsay Kearns did a great script for that, and Eric Elrod and the director, as well as the other EP, Aaron Hammersley, and they just really dug into that. And when we started the show, I knew I wanted to do the idea of doing a show, an episode with very little dialogue and just a straight up survival story. So that, I really like how the season turned out a lot. That episode in particular has a place in my heart, and just seeing the evolution of Ben and and hopefully no one's too upset that Bumpy isn't small and adorable anymore.
Oh, I know it was a little heartbreaking a little bit, but also like Bumpy coming out at after a few days of being or however long, I guess maybe a lot longer. That was pretty impressive. Like the design of Bumpy at I guess an adult stage or whatever she's at.
Like a juvenile, but definitely bigger.
Yeah, pretty big. The color scheme, everything about Bumpy was just super impressive. Really, really loved Bumpy in this season. But yeah, it's sad to kind of leave the cute, like cuddly one behind. She bounced away at the end and then just trotted at the very end of episode 8, and then now she's massive.
Yeah. And that was hard. And also, like, that's one of those things when you see the response, like we had talked about the baby Yoda-like love for Bumpy, and then you're going, okay, well, the story has to keep marching on, and Bumpy is gonna grow, and she's got that accelerated growth thing that we talked about in episode 2. So hopefully people won't mind too much. I love her, small or big. So, but that I love so much of this season, and whether it's putting different characters like that whole Kenji and Yaz stuff, or just putting Darius and Brooklyn at odds or whatever it is. I like so much of the character dynamics in this one. But the Ben and Bumpy alone episode is a real big place in my heart.
Yeah, that was a good one. I love Ben's transformation. It's believable to me, the fact that he, becomes somebody who has to stand up for himself, and he did at the end of season one. So it
Mhm.
was kind of just a natural progression to be like, all right, now he's going to take charge a little bit. Not almost not enough to get past Toro for a long time, but
Yeah.
but eventually.
Yeah, and that's why, just to, dig into it even more, that's why Bumpy had to leave that story because, you kind of get the feeling that when Ben climbs up on the monorail, he's almost doing it for Bumpy. He's almost doing it to
Yeah.
keep Bumpy and his friends safe. And we really wanted to feel like Ben did it for Ben. And so that's how that went out. Oh, I also should mention, the score that Leo Birenberg did for that episode too. I mean, he always does an amazing job, but it was a little bit of a departure, and it was really all him. And so I really love that as well.
Yeah. The score kind of it just got away from me the first time that I watched the second season. After watching the first season so many times, there's so many great moments score wise. And the second season, one part that stood out to me specifically was like after Grimm was shot, and then the other two baryonyx kind of come out of the jungle and they like realize what just happened. It's really like heartfelt, kind of emotional score there, and that's always one of my most exciting things is seeing dinosaur expression, I guess you could say. Like, how do they react to certain circumstance, and seeing, one of their fallen family members, I guess, it's brutal. It's sad,
Yeah, I mean, it's just how we approach that they're actual characters, but you got to balance that with they're actually animals as well.
Mhm.
So you can't go too far where I think we meant they can't feel like Scrappy Doo.
Yeah.
They have to feel legit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Very insightful, to get some more information here for season 2. I had a blast with it. Seeing these kids come up against some new stuff, and especially like uncovering a Sinoceratops head that's just been lopped off. I get it's some brutal stuff that they had to go through. So, you kind of open it up to all kinds of audiences, and I appreciate that. I think it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited for everybody to see it. At this point, they probably have already. So,
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Ben, and thank you. And I'm glad. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And just a big thanks to you and Tom and all your listeners and everyone in the whole fan community. Have been so supportive of the project. And we just want to keep entertaining y'all. And so thank you very much. I really appreciate appreciate y'all.
Well, there you have it. That was my conversation with Scott Kreamer, the executive producer on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, giving us all kinds of juicy details as far as season 1 and season 2 goes. I was really excited to talk about both of those things. And I hope there's a lot of potential for the future, because season 2 really set up some pretty phenomenal things that I'm hoping we see paid off in some form or fashion in the future. I think we should celebrate this season 2, with as much excitement as we'd expect from, say, the final season. If we were to get no more seasons of this show, I am going to go out there, I'm going to rewatch this show over and over, make sure it's trending over on Netflix. So go tell your family, go tell your friends, rewatch this thing a bunch of times, and keep our fingers crossed that there's more content coming in the future from the Camp Cretaceous team. Again, a huge thanks to Scott for joining me here today, and of course, a big shout out to DreamWorks for giving us the time to talk with Scott and to give us this amazing show and let us watch the show a little bit early. So we're really thankful for that over here at the podcast. So thank you to everybody out there for listening. Please go to JurassicParkPodcast.com, find all of our episode show notes. You can find spoiler-based articles over there from Tom Fishenden. You can also find a spoiler-based video from Tom over on our YouTube channel with so much other content over there as well. Please go follow us over on Twitter at Jurassic Park Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Jurassic Park Podcast. You can find us over on Facebook as well. Just look for us there. And of course, please download the podcast on any of your podcasting platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. It's on Audible now. It's everywhere you can find it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And of course, enjoy.